I wanted to use this lovely stamp set, which comes as a bundle. It's called the Lucky Clover stamp set, and it comes with the Lucky Clover punch, which is obviously of a gorgeous four-leaf clover. So I thought I would talk you through the process I've gone through to think about these cards. And the first thing, I suppose, is to think about what colours you might want to use. Now, for clover sets, I'm always going to use greens. I am always going to use some sort of green, and I've chosen to use for this set the lovely granny apple green, which is a beautiful, vibrant spring type green. If you wanted to use a slightly paler green, then something like pear pizzazz might be a good idea. But I've gone with granny apple green for today. So I've got my matching stamp pad, my granny apple green stamp pad, and my granny apple green cardstock. And I've also pulled out a couple of sheets of designer series paper. Ooh, I'm losing one of my cards here. Which is actually from a set that we all got during, I hope you managed to get during Celebration, the Dandy Designs. So I've pulled out the granny apple green sheets. So I've got a few to make today. We'll see how we go. Let us start with, let's start with this one. I'm not quite sure what's in this one because I've got them all. Oh, yes. So this one, I've cut out all the pieces because you don't want to see me wasting time with pieces. So for this card, I've used a basic card base, which is of our basic white cardstock. I've already stuck that bit in. And this is 21 centimetres by 14.8 centimetres, scored in the centre at 10.5. And then I have done layers for the front from the granny apple green cardstock, and these pieces are just half a centimetre smaller each way. So that is actually 10 by 14.4, 14.5. And then for this one, I've also cut out one of the pieces of DSP and already stuck it on. That piece, I can't remember how broad I made it, 5 centimetres. So 5 centimetres, half the width, times the 14.4. And I've just stuck that on. And that is going to be stuck on the front of my card here. And I've already stuck this piece inside. And an additional layer, another half centimetre smaller. So that is 9.5 by 13.8. So this piece is going to go inside with my sentiment on. And obviously this piece is going to go on the front. So I've also cut out, using one of the lovely stylish shapes dies, I've cut out the largest, I think this one is, the circle, because I want that to be the focal point on the front of the card. And I'm going to put a Lucky Clover stamp on that. And I'm going to use my Sending Luck and Love, the inside of the card. So I'm going to stamp it up by tapping very gently on the stamp pad. Our stamp pads are so inky, you do not need to press on our gorgeous stamp pads. They're really easy. So that's Sending Luck and Love, which I'm going to put in the middle there. And I'm also going to put in some more of my clovers. So this is the small clover stamp. So I'll ink that up. Oh, go the corner. And we're going to have a couple of those dotted around on my inside bit. While I've got that stamp out, I'm going to do my envelope as well. I don't like a naked envelope. Nice way to do envelopes is you can cut a piece for the back of the DSP, and the easy way to do that is simply to put use your envelope as the outline. Let me show you how to do that. I can find my pencil, which seems to have vanished. There we go. So if I want to do this on the back, I can use the flap of the envelope as my template, draw around it carefully with my pencil. So I've got my mark where the envelope is, and then I can use my scissors to just cut round. So this piece now fits across my envelope flap. So I can stick that on, do that now actually, and then you can see how my envelope is decorated And I shall also put some shamrocks on the front, of course, or some clovers, some 4-leaf clovers. So just a little bit of Tombow over there. Want to use Tombow because I want the wriggle room. I don't get it exactly lined up to start with. So there we go. And there is my envelope decorated with my DSP. And then on the front, I'm going to use my Clover again. Just have a little something in the corner. I think I'll do these 2 corners here. There we go. So there's my envelope decorated. So now it's a matter of finishing here. So this is my inside piece. So I'm going to stick that one in. So I'd already stuck my paper on. You can do this either way. Either stick your layer on the front and then stick your paper on or whatever. And then I have my focal point. Now, before I do that, I should probably have done this before I stuck it on. I just want to add a little bit more decoration to here. And again, I'm going to use my smaller stamp and just ink it up. And we're just going to have some random clovers all the way down the page here. Just adds a little bit more interest. If you wanted, you could use, I'm just going to clean that pad, that stamp. If you wanted, you could use an embossing folder and actually do some embossing on there. Up to you. I have a strange noise. I hope that's not coming through. Got a beepy noise. Well, I hope it's not coming through on the lives and spoiling things. So I've got my centerpiece on here, and for that I want to use my giant-sized 4-leaf clover. So I'm going to just ink them up. And stick them on here. So there he is. Just give him a second to dry while I just clean that stamp as well. There we go. While we're waiting for that to dry, actually, I'm going to use one of my strips of paper here just to stamp my greeting on. So I've got my Happy St. Patrick's Day. So just tapping the stamp. And there we have the greeting. Ready to go on. I'm just going to close this down because I'm very good at leaning in stamp pads, which is silly. Right, so this should be dry enough now. I'd just like to give it a couple of seconds to dry before I push it into a die or an embossing folder or a punch. Then it'll go all the way in and I can turn it. And how I like to use the punches is I line up the image and then squeeze slightly without cutting. And that just holds the paper, as you can see, in the punch. And you can just adjust it again if you think it's not quite right. When you're happy, you finish the squeeze. And there is my clover ready to go on here. So I've already got quite a lot of layers in this card with having the inside layer as well as this one. So I'm going to stick my stitched circle flat on the front, and then I can raise up my 4-leaf clover. I don't really want to put dimensionals on the circle and on the clover because that would make it a little bit too thick. So I'll stick that down, just hold it carefully because I've got a double layer on here already, so make sure it's stuck down. And then I'm going to use some dimensionals on the back of my clover, so on near the bottom. Now I've got to decide where to put my sentiment. I think we'll just have it along the bottom. Now, do I want to just leave it plain like that? No, I think I probably want to point in the ends, do a little thing in the ends. Now, I've got a wonderful board here which has got lots of marks on it, and I can use those to make a nice little end. So I'm going to go down the centre there, so I can work out the centre and just put a little mark. Do the same the other side. So put it so it's equal, and then I can come down the centre, put a little mark, and then I can cut to that from the corners. And then I know my chevrons are going to be even. And I'm going to have that lined up at the bottom here. So that is my first Happy St. Patrick's Day card with matching envelope that I can send to a friend. This is another one. Again, I've cut the pieces myself. This time I've done the length of A4 by 10.5 centimetres across. So that's half a sheet of A4, scored in the centre at 14.8. So that's making me a card that will stand up, obviously pointy up that way. And for this one, I've just used a couple of pieces of DSP, and I'm going to stick them fairly randomly across the front. I'm going to use the Granny Apple Green side again. So I'm going to put one, I think, roughly down that side. So these pieces can be honestly any size you want. I think I've done this one, was it 13 by, hang on, I'll just measure it to tell you. 13.5 by 8. And my other piece, so I've got the measurements for you, is 10.5 by 5. And I'm sticking that just down the side here. Not being too worried about whether it's exactly in the centre. I'm just going to eyeball it and stick it where I think it looks okay. I just want to make sure that it's parallel to the side. That's important because I want it to at least look straight. Not that good often at doing this. This time I've got an oval sentiment. I might be a bit big. Do you know what? I don't think it matters. So I've got an oval shape I've cut out, another of the stitch shapes from one of my many die sets. And just to add a little bit of interest, I'm going to stick some ribbon across the back. I haven't got any garden green ribbon, so I'm using, Granny Apple Green ribbon. So I'm using a strip of garden green, and I am using my ribbon scissors to cut it. It is worth having a pair of snips that you use purely for ribbon, because ribbon does. Oh, I've got 2 pieces now. I might use 2 pieces actually across. So I'm just going to stick these somewhere across the middle of the card. And then I can stick this on the top. I might use tape. Just a couple of bits of tear and tape rather than using the Tombow, because it will actually help hold the ribbon down. So there we have that again. I'm going to punch out another large 4-leaf clover for the front of here. So I'm going to use my little stamp on the inside with my Sending Luck and Love again. I love these sentiments in this set actually because they're not absolutely straight. So if I haven't stamped absolutely straight, it doesn't actually matter. So there's the middle of my card. Here's the front. Oh, that's a bit. I thought I'd run out of bits of white to do the stamping and punching. So again, I'm going to use my big Clover stamp and make it there. I need one more, to be honest, for my other card, so I'm going to do that while I've got the stamp there, and then I can clean the stamp. So obviously you could use a mix of colours. I'm going with monochrome really of the Granny Apple Green. You could use different colours. You could put different backgrounds on. Just use your imagination and do what feels right to you. So again, I'm lining up my punch and then punching it out. I'll do the other one while I'm here. So I've got them both. I'll probably lose that now. It'll be somewhere on the desk and I'll lose it. So lining it up and just holding it with the punch to make sure I'm happy before I finish the punch. So again, with my card, I'm going to have this raised on dimensionals. And then we just need the St. Patrick's Day. So I'll get another my strips. It's amazing how often when you're doing layers you end up with strips, which I always keep because they're so useful for sentiments that are long and thin like this one. There is my second card. So not nearly as thick, it'll post a lot better. That, with just one layer on there, raised, is going to go through in a normal post, because you have to think about these things nowadays. And I've done my envelope to go with it. My third card, I thought I'd do slightly differently. So this time, instead of a basic white base, I've used my granny apple green base. Again, I've used 21 centimetres scored at 10.5, 14.8 across. This time I've done 2 layers in basic white, one for the inside and one for the front. And I'm going to decorate the front. And I've used the Tasteful Tags dies, can't remember, Tailored Tags dies. And I've cut out the largest one in granny apple green and a smaller one in the white. So I'll leave that for a minute while I show you what I'm doing with the card itself. So that's my inside. And then on the front here, I'm going to do things a little bit differently. And what we have is this stamp, which is like just lots of little clovers, 3-leaf clovers. We've also got a larger 3-leaf clover one. So this stamp does have it has some 4-leaf clovers as well as 3, so it has a mix. And I'm just going to stamp this across the centre of the card, and I'm going to use a technique called stamping off, which means I'm going to stamp it up and I'm going to have it coming across, and then I'm going to stamp it again without re-inking. And I'm just going to do this again without re-inking, just randomly across the card. So I've got a little line of my 4-leaf clovers. I might have some more on there actually. There we go. So now I've got a strip across the centre of my card. And I'm going to change my mind. I was going to stick my Happy St. Patrick's Day on my tags. I think actually I might have it, might even turn it that way round. Have these going across like that, and have Happy St. Patrick's Day across the bottom. Why not? And then I'm going to use my smaller, there we go. Where's my little one? There we go. I think we'll use my smaller one over here. In the meantime, I'm going to stamp some of these randomly on my tag, like that. Then I'm just going to decide where I want that. I don't want to stick these down except at the top here. So the first thing I'm going to do is stick my top tag to my lower tag near here, just making sure the holes line up, but I don't particularly want the tags to line up. I want them to look a little bit artistic. And then I'm going to, in fact, I will stick them onto my card with dimensionals. But I'm only going to use dimensionals at this end. I'm using some of the ends of my other strip. It's nearly used up now. As I say, I use every little bit of dimensions that come on the strips, come on the sheets. So I think we'll have that there. Oh, it's sort of gross grain. It'll do. So I'm going to make a bow with this. Let me just get rid of this before I start staining my ribbons and dropping my ribbons in it. Making bows. I like to just use the end of the ribbon, and I make 2 rabbit's ears, cross them, oops, not very even rabbit's ears, let's try again. 2 rabbit's ears, cross them over and push the top one underneath the bottom one. And that gives me a nice bow, which I can then pull the ends and decide how big the actual ears want to be. And I think for here, that's probably about right. So again, using my special ribbon scissors, I'm going to cut some quite long ends for this bow, because I want to make it the focal point, really, of the tags here. Yeah, I like that. And to stick it on, I'm going to use one of our wonderful Stampin' Up glue dots, which are super sticky, but a lovely size. So I want my ribbon to stick over my hole. So I'm putting my glue dot over my hole and then sticking my ribbon to it. There. So hopefully you can see that. I quite like that one. And that's yet another slightly different St. Patrick's Day card. That is my third one. I've already cut out these bits. I'm going to make this an opening sideways landscape card like that. And I've cut out a plain, again I've used, sorry, let me give you the measurements again. This is just half an A4 sheet cut at 10.5, scored at 14.8, folded in half. This is my usual half a centimetre smaller, so this is 14.3 by 10. And this is going to be my layer on the front. And then I have cut this piece 4 centimetres by 14.3. So it's a strip to go on. And I've also cut out a stitch shaped circle, which is going to have my leaf on. But I thought, how should we decorate this? Well, there's two ways I could do this. I can either emboss the piece, or do you know what? I'm going to show you this way because I think it's fun. So this is my base. I'm going to stick it to my card. Actually, I'm going to stamp the inside of my card first. I always like to do that before I start sticking things on the front. I'm going to stick it on plain and show you a slightly different way that you can decorate a plain fronted card. What I'm going to do is find myself some more of my card, get my punch, and I'm just going to punch out some of my lucky clovers. 7 should do, I think, which I can get from that piece of card, which is good. Could have stamped these if I wanted, but I'm not going to. I'm just going to show you a very easy way to shape a cutout shape, which is just to put it in your palm and press. And that just gives you a little bit of shape. So I'm going to do that with each one. So now I have all my shaped leaves, and I'm actually just going to stick them to the card. So I'm getting some shape and some depth to my card, but without using an embossing folder or stamps. So then I'm going to stick my strip across, not right in the middle. It doesn't look right somehow, just a little bit lower than there. So I'm going to stick it to here. So can you see how sticking those clovers on gives interest to the background really quickly and simply? And I don't need to worry about it. I've got one more. I might use that. We'll see. But the first thing I'm going to do is stick this down. I'm going to leave this dangling. I'm just going to stick it at one end. So I just want to show you how I shape these things. If you use the edge of your bone folder and just run it underneath, it curls the card. So I usually do one way, one the other. And that gives me a nice shape, which I can then stick onto my card. So that will now fit in the envelope. Always a good thing. I could have moved that across a little bit, actually. That might have looked better. But anyway, there we have my little banner thing. I've got a spare one of these. Shall I use it? Yeah, why not? There. Yeah, like that. So bring it closer so you can see it. So I hope you enjoyed these ideas for St. Patrick's Day cards. There's that one we've just made. Let's get the others back to show you. So I'll bring them close so you can see them properly. That's one. Here's the one that is really quick and simple. I can't get it in the middle. There we go. Really quick and simple, just using a couple of strips of DSP and a couple of strips of ribbon. That one's really simple to do and quick. Then another one on a similar idea. You can see I'm using the same basic principle of a strip of DSP, a coloured background, a shape to show off the four-leaf clover, and then the sentiment. And then this was the one that was a little bit less usual. I've done my own background by stamping and using the stamping off technique. And then I've used tags to stick on the front, just with the sentiment along the bottom. So I hope you enjoyed those and they've given you some ideas to make your own St. Patrick's Day card. I do love this set. It's a really lovely set. It comes as the bundle. So if you're interested in buying from me, then obviously do get in touch. And please remember, subscribe to my YouTube channel to see lots of other videos and lots of other things that I've put together on there. They will come up very regularly. And sign up on my website, craftycarolscards.co.uk. Let me just put me back in so I can actually talk to you properly. There we go. Sign up at craftycarolscards.co.uk and you'll get my regular emails, which will tell you what we're doing and when we're doing it. So thank you for joining me today. Thank you for watching it if you're watching it on record, and I will see you again very soon. Bye for now.